Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Welcome, everybody, to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from somewhere in Alaska. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day today. If you like Must Read Alaska, if you listen to us, watch us, read it, you want to help keep the lights on, just go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 helps keep the lights on here at Must Read Alaska. If you want to help sponsor the show, which would be phenomenal, just email me, John, John, at mustreadalaska.com. And I would love to chat with you. We have a very special guest today, a returning guest. I think Hans has been on twice. This is his third time. Hans Johnson built a self-help empire with his wife. He's a best-selling author on Amazon, and he toodles around the globe these days. And I know every time we have him on, we have folks ranting and raving about just hearing from him. So welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show, Hans, again for the third time.
John, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure, and it's good to see you. Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners.
Yeah, and we were chatting a little bit beforehand. You've done a number of Facebook Lives that I've jumped on, maybe one or two of them in the last year. And man, it's fun to see you get heated up about certain topics. I think one of the topics that I think I love hearing from you about is thinking for yourself, right? This idea of like, you don't need to be inundated and indoctrinated by the media or whatever else is out there just trying to shove information down your throat or brain. Why is it so important for folks to think for themselves in today's day and age?
Well, you want to start right down the rabbit hole, don't you? It's funny. This is actually a topic I've been, it seems so simple on the surface, but it's really not at all. I've been chewing on it quite a bit lately. And, I tweeted this out and then it gets posted over on my Facebook, and people they don't like it when I say stuff like this. This is when I really get into that equal opportunity offender zone. But, I said, thinking is hard. And that's the reality of it. We're just not very good thinkers naturally. And even people that probably think that they aren't, because we're so heavily influenced by our environment. Nothing is a bigger influence in our lives than our environment. So even when we think we're an independent thinker, or oh, okay, I'm not buying into whatever the mainstream narrative is. And then what happens is that human nature, above all else, dictates how we think, how we feel, what we do, our actions. And so, we might not resonate with a mainstream narrative. So then what ends up happening is we tend to we tend to congregate into other types of groupthink. And you see this in on far left and far right extremes. I've been I don't know. So back to your question, why is it so important? Well, there's different types of thinking, but nowadays we live in a world where critical thinking in particular seems very absent. And part of that is because there's so much, I call it too much damn information. And people say we're in this information age and that information is power, but in our current realm today, it's not power. It's a liability, not an asset. And so what is real power is learning how to filter and aggregate and essentially how to filter out all the noise, because there's just so much of it. And it just takes a while, and but learning how to do critical thinking, it's not easy. It's tough. I mean, I know people that, it's like, oh, I'm looking at all the facts, or I'm doing due diligence, or, like in investing or the money management realm that I'm dealing with a lot. People get into analyzing fundamentals of an investment or business or what have you. And at the end of the day, it's not fundamentals, it's sentiment. It's how people feel. That's what drives markets, supply and demand, and sentiment. And especially the markets now and the world today is it's not, facts are so hard to actually validate. So it's chaos, you know. But I do believe it's important to learn how to think and to challenge ourselves but to me, that starts with learning about human nature. Um, I think we talked about this, maybe you and I, but they've identified there are currently 180 known human biases, 180 of them. And we talk about this in our, True Wealth Formula training programs and stuff like that. But how are you supposed to make decisions in your life if you got 180? This is just what they've mapped, John. I mean, they have a whole schematic and a mapping of it. And the thing is did you learn about that growing up in school?
No.
I didn't. You know, how many people are even aware? And so we're in this very polarized, very extreme society now that is just tearing itself apart, and everybody's mad at everybody,
and everybody's
and
on this
everybody
thing all day long too.
What's that?
Everybody's on this thing all day long as well.
Which just amplifies. I think last time we talked, we were talking about the value of local relationships and local communities, and that being what's real. Because how do you know what else is real out there? And so we live in this world that's just very polarized, and everybody needs somebody to blame for their failures or for their shortcomings or whatever. The system knows how to play that because they understand human nature very well. They understand all 180 biases and how to manipulate that, how to steer that, how to play off of people's fear and greed and isolation. And don't kid yourself. I mean, you're a student of history. I am. Patterns repeat over and over and over again. And it is just the fact that, divide and conquer. That's how you maintain power. That's how you maintain power structures. And so, yeah, I think the place to start when it comes to thinking, because thinking is hard, is to learn about ourselves and really discover our own human nature and our own biases, our blind spots. We all have blind spots where we think we're something that we're not. And so that plays out into everything in life, plays out into money, plays out into relationships. But yeah, that's
like when when you and I were kids, we probably had to go figure out how to make friends on the playground, or in high school we had to muster up enough courage to go ask a girl out. And exactly. Now you just do a friend request and you don't have to learn anything about what it takes to actually have a relationship.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you travel overseas, like I was in Colombia at a friend's wedding, and then over in we spent like 10 or 11 days in Aruba after that. And but I've been over 40, maybe 45 countries now. And if you travel, you see in many countries, people are outside talking to each other. And they're sitting on their porches talking. They're
not in the US.
No. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
It's sad. I was in Iowa a couple months ago, and that was the one thing that was the most kind of sad takeaway was nobody was outside. And it was like September, so it's not, I mean, it was like really cool weather in Iowa, meaning cool, not temperature wise, but like leaves are falling and it's like 50 to 60 degrees. And literally no kids are in playgrounds, nobody's outside. And I just thought to myself, man, this is not a great trend.
Right. Yeah.
So how do we fix that? Like what do we, I mean, it seems like an impossible task to even try to start to fix.
Well, I think people like yourself with young families and balance, doing that, work family life balance. my wife, Danny and I did it. We raised our kids and we took them with us traveling and every time they were out of school, we were out traveling. And that was really their education. And they worked the seminars and our events with us. And so they learned and interacted with people and got that business experience and perspective. But you know, I know kids want to sit in front of a screen and play video games. I mean, and there's all kinds of we're really in a situation. There's a fertility crisis and a epidemic going on. There's all on and on and on. We could talk about it. Birth rates declining, disease increasing. Obesity. The obesity is the food. We're our country basically our food supply is poison, pure poison. And our country,
most of our foods are like banned in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's insane.
I mean, it's just
and
crazy
Europe
to think about.
It is. And Europe has plenty of its own problems, but one thing they've done really well is protected their food supply. It blows my mind. So back to what you said about how do you fix it? I mean, I think the answer again is like at the local level. It's in our homes and in our local communities. And with going back to what we said when we started, environment, nothing's more powerful than the environment. We are products of our environment. Yes, we can go against the grain. Yes, we can, we're responsible ultimately for ourselves. Nobody will do for us what we're not willing to do for ourselves, period. And we are the ultimate responsibility for ourselves. But part of that responsibility is getting ourselves in the right environment that will help support the direction we want to go. So if that's with our kids and getting them outside more and exercising, or whatever it is, doesn't matter. Money, business, family, spirituality, finance, and so that's the first thing is to get plugged in with a good community of people, both local and then even online. There's definitely power in that. That's what we do with TWF. That's what you're doing with Wildly Alaska is building a community of like-minded people. And that's important, but then it's like take action, right? So, and then I would just say that the other part of it, and this is the bad part, is the solution to it or how you fix it. And nobody wants to hear this, but if you study history and you study cycles, things like this, when they're this bad, they don't usually fix themselves. When you have systems that are this embedded at infrastructure levels, at bureaucracy levels, okay, at cultural levels, usually they have to hit the wall pretty hard for real change to happen. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make change ourselves and we can't fix things at the personal level. But I don't know too many examples in history where a society, especially when it's this prosperous and has this many comforts. So change doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in pain. And so to get to that point where there is systemic change in a positive way, there's got to be a lot of change, a lot of pain. And so.
Yeah, there's a saying I think out there. It's like easy times create weak men, or something along those lines.
Absolutely.
So, switching gears a little bit, you and your wife built a very successful self-help improvement business. That's probably not a great definition of it, but
no,
one of the most successful that's ever been created. Take me back to a story of what it was like to build that. Maybe you had a moment with your wife of like, what are we doing even? Or, the moment where it could go either way and it obviously ended up good. But tell me a story about that, because I think, a lot of the folks that are listening here, most of the people in America are working a 9-to-5 job. There's nothing wrong with that. But you and your wife took a different path, built a very, very successful business, speaking in front of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people. Take me back to a moment of what it was like to build that.
That's a great question. So, my wife, Danny, retired 3 years ago now, and people are like, I can't believe why did she retire? Because people usually just don't do that after doing what she's done for as many decades as she has. But I remember back when we started the business, and we had several businesses along the way and huge successes, and then we had bookkeepers embezzle, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had, just every single possible thing you could imagine, the good, bad, and the ugly. But I remember when we started, DannyJohnson.com, which the company is the business you're referring to. And, we didn't take we basically, we had some other income from a prior business. She had been retired for about 4 years. She decided, hey, I think I want to start speaking again and doing things. I was working on another project at the time, doing some direct response marketing and writing sales copy and doing things. We started this business and really simple. She started speaking again. In the first 2 years, we didn't take any income from it at all. We were just whatever income came in was, we had 2 employees at the time, and we
going
had
back into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% sweat equity, and so it's funny because people talk about, being an entrepreneur means that you're raising capital, and which is true on a big scale. But in our, we both grew up poor and on the streets, and I started my first business at 8 years old and stuff. So all we knew how to do was just get out there and hustle, and sell. And, but yeah, right back into the business. But we were raising a family, raising our kids. We were just working, when the kids were they were babies at the time, some of them. So, if they were taking naps, we were working. We had a schedule, if you've got a family and kids, you gotta have a schedule. So they were in bed at 8. So we had time to work in the evenings, and do calls and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of times people just nowadays, they want that quick fix. They want, there's fast money out there. You see it, you hear stories, but social media has kind of fed into this too, where we're exposed to so much. We think that's normal, or we think that's everybody except us.
When it's only just a handful of people really getting rich quick, you mostly have to just do the work for a long period of time and keep doing it.
I mean, I kind of wrote this down because, it's the new year, and it's always good. I like to get back to basics when a year starts. You kind of like, people a lot of times they set these big goals and everything like that. And for me, it's always about, what is true? Where's home base at? And I like, it gets at this stage of my life, it's like simplification is got so much value because the world is so complex. But I wrote down 2 words, work ethic. And there's not much you can do with somebody that doesn't have good work ethic, and it's kind of a rude thing for me to say that, but there's so many people out there now that just have this idea in their mind that somebody owes them something. And the fact is, nobody owes you anything.
Yeah.
At all. We were all born with different advantages and disadvantages, and if we live in a country like America, and there's several others out there as well, but particularly America, there's really no excuse. And yes, times are hard right now. Inflation is eating at people, cost of living, housing, everything. But a lot of people just have this attitude like it's supposed to be easy, or things are supposed to be like, I saw this thing recently and people were like, and of course the media and I'm guilty of it too. You get generational, think about boomers, Xers. Of course, Xers don't exist. I'm a Gen Xer. So, but we're getting kind of squeezed out, it's like boomers and millennials. It's like,
I'm a millennial. I'm the oldest of the millennials.
Yeah, totally. So, and they keep moving the lines and stuff, and then you got the Gen Ys and Zoomers and, doomers and all these other names and slurs, the generational slurs. But I don't know. I think it's just, you got to have good work ethic, man, and this, and anybody who has achieved anything knows this. It doesn't, and a lot of times you can go for years struggling and have success, lose it, have success, lose it. And so, but it all starts with work ethic, because that's what that, really it's skill, right? If you want to succeed, it doesn't matter if it's business or anything like that. You got to develop skills. You got to create the value. But how do you create the skill? You got to have work ethic. When you're starting off in life, if you don't have good work ethic, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how. I don't know how. And there's so many people out there, because
That want to
why?
work 5 hours a day and then be the vice
Dude,
president in 2 weeks.
but this is the irony of it. This is the irony of it. Why? Why is this mindset so prevalent out there? It's because it's not hard right now. It's easy. It's not, it is not hard times. And I know this is going to piss a lot of people off by me saying this, but it's actually not hard times right now. It's actually never been easier. And the evidence of that is that there are so many lazy people that are just expecting the government, you, me, somebody else to do it for them. And like you just said, they want to work their 5 hours. They don't want to put the hustle in, And so the only reason why that's possible is because we live in a very soft society right now. And people they'd rather eat their $8 a day lattes with freaking all their stuff in
some
it.
parts of LA, they're like $20 a latte.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I can't afford a house, well, you're right. You're right. You can't afford a house. You think you think we could afford, you think when we were starting off, like it was just easy? It was never easy. It wasn't easy for Gen X. It wasn't easy for you. You hustle, you bust your butt, you save money. So I don't know. That's my kind of little rant. I'm sure that kind of pissed off some people, but
when I was a kid, my dad, was in the tail end of the Vietnam War, in a helicopter. He went around rescuing people as a crew chief pilot. I remember being in like third grade, and I would do chores all day long, wash the cars, do the lawn, everything you could think of, literally probably 8 hours of chores, and he would give me a quarter.
right.
Or sometimes he would just say thank you. And, I just think, man, I'm glad he did that, because, there's a whole generation of folks who've never even done chores before.
Right. Yeah, good point.
That simple thing alone of like not doing chores and not figuring out, it's created a system that you're speaking about, of just not a great environment for people to hustle and do actual work.
Yeah. And I mean, we're all beneficiaries of this very comfortable environment. I mean, think about it. Not only do we have running water in our house, electricity, right? We can have food delivered to us by just tapping a button. We have movie theaters in our house now.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal.
And by the way, that's not rich people.
That's everybody.
That's poor people have that.
When I was in Hawaii, they had a booth on the way out to the North Shore, with a big booth that said, "Get your free government smartphone."
Right. Yeah.
And it's there's some people can't afford phones, and they can get those, great, but it's not something that you hope to attain one day. Everybody has this stuff at whenever they want, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, and that's fine, to each their own, but I'll say that the point of it is that there's more opportunity today, because of all of this. It's actually easier for the person with work ethic, for the person who is responsible, who is diligent, who learns critical thinking skills, who learns financial skills. Like if somebody's working for a company or starting their own business, it's easier now.
Well, just little things I tell people, like, 15 years ago, if you wanted to start a clothing company, you had to go buy 1,000 shirts you had to go buy one of those things where you do the ink, and you had to go figure out how to ship things. Now I can open a clothing company on Shopify in 5 minutes and never touch a product once. Just
Yeah. I mean,
and
that's a great example. I mean, I can fire up Chat GDP right now and write code.
yeah, not know how to write Python, but
Yeah.
sell. I could sell a
Yes.
service of writing Python without even
Yes.
know how to write it,
Correct. If
which is
I'm a
just
if I'm a
crazy.
solopreneur and I'm a coder, or even if I'm working for somebody else and I have some coding experience, I can use a GPT platform to be my junior coder
Yeah,
and to do all the heavy lifting for me. And I can produce, and I mean, there's just so much opportunity today that you and I didn't have, and so, or that others didn't have, but it's here. And so I guess the thing is everything, there's two sides to every coin. And so no matter how, when we look out there, and I have to remind myself this too, because I look at things and I just go, God, I'm just this old guy that's bitching and complaining about stuff, So I got to be careful of that, but it's like everything has two sides, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, and the order and the chaos. And so if we are in this soft society that has all these comforts and all these, stuff, well, that means there's an incredible opportunity that's out there. But again, what does it take? It takes work ethic. It all starts at that, because I sit around all day long and don't get in there. Learn how to use a tool like ChatGPT, learn how to set something up like Shopify and outsource and do, start building a global t-shirt brand or whatever it's going to be. And it's just sitting there. So, and a lot of people are doing this and doing really well, and that's the good. That's the fantastic side of it. Then the other bad side to that is we're on these screens all day long.
yeah.
So then we've got to like program into our daily schedule and into our lifestyle these habits to break away
Get
from.
outside.
Yeah, exactly. Get outside, man. Totally.
So,
So
shifting gears for a moment, I want to get your thoughts on kind of a political question. So, this idea of like, um, people being in a rut and thinking that Joe Biden, Trump, anybody, name it, it doesn't really matter
yep.
who on what side is going to be the savior of their problems.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's a healthy thing?
So that again, that's human nature, right? And that's been since the beginning of the time, because most people, thinking is hard. That's why thinking is hard, and taking responsibility is hard, and embracing uncertainty and chaos is very difficult. So human nature and those 180 biases lend to a savior syndrome type of thinking, and of course it's very prevalent in various faiths and whatnot, so naturally so, because in a lot of ways we all do, we all are our own worst enemies, and we all need a savior. We need to be saved first and foremost from ourselves, and maybe from biases and fears and early childhood traumas and other things, which is a totally another topic. But yeah, whether it's Trump or Biden, and particularly the political polarity that's in this
Mm.
country right now, the polarization is not healthy at all. But I mean, I have my own views and stuff like that. I mean, I lean pretty hard libertarian. But I'm also have some I'm very, very open. I kind of have a live and let live. Just don't transgress on another person or their property. But I think there's some, but I'm also kind of pretty conservative on some things too. So I'm kind of all over the board. But I look at these political figureheads and the theater, the stage that is political theater, and the audience of the masses that are so caught up in it, and to caught up
Political
to
theater,
caught up.
that's a great definition of it.
Oh, it's complete theater, because that none of these people, I mean, with the exception of Trump, and we know he says a lot of crazy stuff that is not on the script. But outside of him, nobody's saying. No, everybody's reading a script. Everybody's handled by handlers, and it's true that the person that we look to or that we see has influence, obviously. They're the figurehead. They're the one that's talking. They're the one that's putting out messaging and whatnot. But at the end of the day, John, this system is the bureaucracy, or what people call the deep state, or whatever name you want to attach to it. That thing is very real, and it is there, and it doesn't change. And so you can swap these figureheads out. And so
and you still have these government organizations with 30,000 people deep.
Oh yeah, and by the way, that all of those organizations and all of those people are incentivized to grow those organizations. The way the budgeting system works is that if you don't spend all of your budget every year, you will get cut. And so I have friends that work. I'm not going to mention where they work. I mean, at very high levels. And they'll tell me straight up, like, yeah, at the end of our fiscal year, we're buying everything and anything we can. We're buying $5,000 chairs. We're being told that if we don't spend the money, then we're going to get a cut. And nobody wants a cut. Nobody wants cuts. So this is the cancer. This is the kind of thinking, and no business does this, but government does this. And so that's not going to change. There's some exceptions, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, we all have to take responsibility for ourselves. I mean, yes, we might have a preference of what we want to see happen. I mean, and it's an election year, to talk politics, right? And so this is going to be a fun year. I mean, I'm sure that several, campaigns, BLM, Antifa, COVID campaigns will be launched this year, because if you look up and you just do a Google keyword search, something like BLM is at every 2 to 4 year spike in activity. Why, and so, not to get too conspiratorial or anything like that, but if you go down the rabbit hole and you do the critical thinking and you do the research and you look, these things are fundraising. They're strategic, right? They serve a purpose. So I'm expecting a lot of funny stuff to happen this year.
I mean, just think of the chaos of the last election cycle. Cities were literally burning down to the ground, all across America,
and nobody did anything to stop it. I mean, it's insane, and yet we're told that. We're told other things that are just kind of boggle the mind. So it's just one of these things where nobody, in True Wealth Formula, my book, right, that people can get on Amazon. True Wealth Formula is the book, and then truewealthformula.com. We do coaching. We have our app, Wealth Builder, and clients that we work with, teach them how to manage money and invest and do stuff. But right in the beginning of the book, I don't even know if it's the chat. It's like the preface said, there's a statement that I say, says, nobody will do for you what you will not do for yourself. And this is like the hard swallow right at the front of it that is very hard for all of us to say that, to accept that. Okay, you mean I am the one that is most. Now, yes, the environment matters, the political landscape matters, the legal system matters. Do we have rule of law or do we not? Do we, truth matters. All of these things matter, but at the end of the day, none of that matters as much as me. And I have family members that I've talked to, because they've gotten, some of them get pretty wrapped up in this stuff. And it's like, okay, so what's and John, they are the same stuff that they were worried about 4 years ago. It's all this year. They're in the same place in their lives. They haven't created any more wealth. Their businesses hasn't grown. They haven't, nothing in their life has improved. They're in the exact same place.
It's probably went worse, to be honest, because of inflation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they're complaining about the same thing, expecting some guy or some person to be their savior.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but and like one particularly very close family member, I told him, I said, okay, so what if that doesn't happen? Then what? And this was back in 2020. Oh, he asked, this has to happen. I said, well, then what? What are you going to do?
Yeah, when Biden gets in there and everything just gets worse, what's going to happen then?
Yeah. Well, then we'll fight and we'll get it back. No, you won't. It ain't going to matter. Yes, it matters, but it's not the thing that's going to change your life.
Yeah, yesterday I watched a segment that it was just a clip on Instagram or whatever, but it was like on MSNBC, which is extremely to the left, right?
Yeah.
And they had the CEO of Morgan, Chase Morgan, like I can't remember what it's either Chase or JP Morgan or the same.
Morgan, yeah.
Big bank.
He said Trump was right.
Yep. And he's like, and you could see all these.
Their faces were like,
And then one of them actually kind of turns and starts to agree with him. And, you get a guy like that, the CEO of one of the biggest banks in the world, saying,
Jamie
listen, he
Dimon,
may not
yep.
have liked what Trump said or how he said it, or he's probably a jerk. But his policies worked and we didn't go to war. and
Yes, exactly.
none of them really could
Exactly.
disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I saw that clip too, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that, great point. Yeah, he first president, and how long that didn't start a new war,
Yeah.
And many many other things, and so, I think different people, we can know that there's a problem, we can be we could put energy into trying to fix that problem. But the biggest problem or the biggest solution is always going to be inside of us. And, and so it's about having balance. And this is part of the human bias and the 180 biases, the human nature part, is that humans, we're not very good at balance. We tend to run to extremes.
And
And
get
that's why you
addicted
see
to
this
everything.
with everything. And we run to extremes because the mind has a difficult time holding two seemingly opposing ideas or beliefs at the same time, because we particularly the Western mind. The Eastern mind does a lot better job at this, but the Western mind tends to tilt to extremes. It runs to extremes. It's a right wrong, it's a black and white type of thing. And the thing about that is that, and I'm a believer in right and wrong, and there's certain things and certain lines, and you know but I've also lived long enough to realize that I may not be the absolute best judge of what that is all of the time.
Mm.
And that because I've been wrong plenty of times in my life, and there's been somebody else, whether it's my wife or somebody else, that saw something that I didn't see, or saw an angle or perspective that I didn't see. And so, but the Western mind and the humans in particular, we have a hard time accepting that, both things can be true. Like, for example, in this country, what made America, one of the things that made America so great, it was the land of the free, home of the brave, but it was the land of opportunity, not the land of guarantees or security. And our diversity made us great because we had 50 different states, and you had a fairly light, once upon a time, light federal system. And you don't want California to be Texas or Texas to be California, right? If I travel to California, I mean, I like California, but I don't necessarily want to live there. But that's part of the freedom. I don't want to force. I don't. What is this system that we have where I'm going to try to force other people to think and live the way I do, and I'm going to use. And so I don't like that
Yeah,
system.
and then if you don't want to do it, I'm going to figure out a way to cancel you.
Yeah, yeah. And why is that? Why does it matter? I mean, in a properly functioning constitutional republic, none of these problems out there should matter, because a constitutional republic protects the rights of the minority. A democracy is mob rule. Democracy is an attack on the minority, on minority rights,
Thank
because
God we're not a democracy.
the majority votes, and they vote away the rights of whatever the minority is. And so if you had a properly, and this country was founded as a republic, not a democracy, and apparently nobody seems to know that or understand that now. You won't find the word democracy in the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, any of that. And so, but people on the media and the right and the left are talking, oh, democracy, we got to do this for democracy. Democracy is mob rule, is two wolves voting, and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. It's manipulation of the masses, easy manipulation, because they're being manipulated through messaging, through media, through the social media platforms, through everything. And so, but in a properly functioning republic, constitutional republic, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Wouldn't matter if Biden was in and I didn't like Biden. It wouldn't matter if Trump was in and I didn't like Trump. It wouldn't matter. I wouldn't be threatened. But the reason we have this extremism and this polarity is because we're all under threat. because this system has grown into something that is now a threat to people. So then we're running to these extremes and fighting against each other. Like, I have to beat you. I have to force you to live, think, believe what I believe in order for me to feel secure in this country. That is messed up.
Yeah, I'm not your safety blanket. I don't want to be.
Or just the idea that my way is the only right way,
Yeah,
and I'm going to impose my will, my belief system on millions of other Americans
it's crazy.
just because and so that's where I kind of just like, yeah, it's nonsense. We're really in a and I don't know what the solution to that is. You would think that if you get the right people running things, that yes, there could be change. We also have this other problem, this globalism problem, the UN, the WHO, the World Economic Forum, these other not unelected global bureaucrats, and these treaties that are basically destroying national sovereignty and I mean, we only have to look back to COVID and everything that went on there, and the imposition and the trampling of civil rights, and people losing their jobs because they didn't take an experimental shot that they redefined the definition of vaccine on. And I know people. I mean, if you want to take the shot, go for it. I don't care. But why were they forcing people? Why were people losing their jobs?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
like
and
not being able to see their wife or their daughter or their grandpa die in a
yeah,
hospital.
yeah. There's
Like
another.
people
Yeah,
died alone in a hospital because people had these ridiculous, I mean, here in Alaska, people were dying in hospitals alone because of ridiculous COVID policies.
yeah. And how wrong were these organizations? These global organizations. They were just wrong. Everything they said. And I'm talking about the WHO. I'm talking about these globalists, that are embedded in our system on both Democrat and Republican side. And this type of thinking. They were wrong about, oh, if you have this shot, you won't catch COVID. Wear a mask. They were wrong. All this data has come out now. There's
Yeah.
been all kinds of data. There are states now that are banning these experimental shots, these vaccines. There's health issues that people are having, long-term health effects. And so, you know, and again, I don't have a problem. If you want to do it. But the government used, and my background's in marketing. I understand psychology. I understand. What I understand an infomercial when I see it. And the government was running a 24/7 infomercial backed by coercion and force at massive profits.
Yeah.
You know,
Somebody got rich off that.
yeah, and this is just one example.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I it's hard for me to talk to people. Like, people are so brainwashed in this idea that, oh, democracy is good. No, it's actually terrible. Our founding fathers, who weren't perfect but understood quite a number of things, they knew that democracy was a terrible form of government, and it devolves into a very bad place. So um, and I say, if you think democracy is good, democracy is mob rule. By very definition, it's mob rule. And we say, well, no, there's rule of law is a democratic value. No, it's not. It's a constitutional republic value.
And that's what
Because
we
in,
are as
in
a
a
constitutional
democracy, you can
republic.
overrule, you can change the so-called rule of law anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
There is no absolute rule of law. There are no principles, um, that protect people, the individual. So I don't know. I kind of I see these things a little. Sorry, thought you were going to say something.
So tell me, we have a couple minutes left. You are not just a grumpy old man, like you said.
Yeah.
You actually created, you and your wife have been helping people for, the last 20 years, probably longer than that. And you created a kind of a system, a different approach called the True Wealth Formula. So for folks listening in, Hans, if you just kind of tuned in the last 5 minutes, go back and listen to the whole thing, because you get to hear from a guy that's had a tremendous amount of success in life and in business, with hard work being involved, ups and downs. And you get to hear his perspective on a number of different things in the last 30 minutes, which I just think is a gold mine, hopefully, for folks. But Hans, you created a thing called the True Wealth Formula. Tell folks, give us the elevator talk on what it is and how people can get information on it. Because there's going to be folks that are listening in this saying, man, I like what Hans has to say. I want to hear more of it. How can they get in touch with you and a hold of you through that system?
Yeah, thanks. So truewealthformula.com is where people can go. They can watch a couple short videos. They can, but they, essentially True Wealth Formula is a master wealth building strategy. It's a money management system, and it uses it's ratio-based money management. Years ago, when I was running business and doing stuff, I'd get so frustrated anytime I'd have conversations with accountants and growing up poor in Hawaii on the streets. I was always, I had a mentor way back when. He said the key to wealth is to get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. And so True Wealth Formula it was years and years of me kind of untangling this and looking at the frustrations that I had, because it's not enough to make money. You have to be able to keep it and then make it grow. And so that's what True Wealth Formula is really about. Is about teaching people that system of budgeting, how to budget their money based off of ratios instead of dollars and cents, how to absolutely eliminate their debt, how to convert their debt into actual cash flow assets. We break down different types of assets on the balance sheet and the type of assets you want to have on your balance sheet versus the ones you don't want to have. There's certain kind of assets that if you own them, they're going to make you poorer every single year. And those aren't really assets. We have a thing called automatic paychecks that we have people that are just, they're basically compounding on autopilot. We have a whole group that we do trading strategies with, that I work with, and we're trading the markets. And so a lot of stuff there from that standpoint is really kind of something for everybody, anywhere from, but it's all based, it's a good kind of tie in. It's all based on human nature. It's all based on the foundation of it, of, okay, what are the biases that have been affecting how I manage money my entire life? And how do I overcome those biases and start to apply this formula, this system, in a way that strategically and very mathematically, every single month, every single quarter, every single year, increases my wealth, increases my unearned income, the money that's working for me instead of just the money that I am working for. So
I love it. So I'm going to give a little deal here for folks. The first two people to email me, John, John at mustreadalaska.com, I'm going to send them a book. Hans has a book, True Wealth Formula. You can buy it on Amazon. I'm going to send the first two people to email me that they want this book. I'm going to send them the free book. So email me, John, John at mustreadalaska.com. And the first two people are going to get a free book that Hans wrote. And you can go on Amazon right now and buy it as well. And you can go to truewealthformula.com to check out Hans's stuff. Hans, any last minute thoughts before we head out here?
No, just thanks, man. I always enjoy doing this, John. Appreciate the opportunity, and it's fun. You're an amazing guy. Just getting to know you, and what you're doing up there in Alaska, and people that you work with, and yeah, I mean, I think that it's 2014. It's a begin, or sorry, 2014 to 2024. Awesome. That's so funny. What a throwback that was. God, imagine that. 2024. It's a new year. It's an election year. And typically, election years are kind of, everybody's kind of like, okay, what's going to happen, and people aren't spending as much money. They're not, they're sort of not consumer level, but bigger purchase, like buying homes and things kind of go into a little bit of a holding pattern. So we'll see how the year turns out. It could get crazy. If the system thinks that Trump has a chance at getting back in, then it might do some things to there's all kinds of things that could go down this year. So I've got my eyes open. I'm expecting the unexpected. I'll tell you that. So
awesome.
You like him or love him or hate him, he's definitely not he's a disruptor, and the system doesn't like the status quo being disrupted. They have a particular agenda, and it's being driven by the UN Agenda 2030, which used to be Agenda 2021. And anybody that really wants to know what's going on and why the world is the way it is, read it. It's all there in writing. It's all disclosed. And if you want to understand why things are moving in the direction they're moving, So anyway, hopefully, but at the end of the day, we all got to do what we could do with at our own personal level, take responsibility for ourselves, and make the change, because we don't have control over that. At the end of the day, we really don't have any control over it. We have control over ourselves, though.
I love it. Well, folks, go check it out. You can go to Amazon.com and type in Hans Johnson or type in True Oath Formula. It'll pop up. The first two people to email me, johnjohn at mustreadalaska.com. I'm going to send them a book. And folks, I appreciate you listening, watching, and reading Must Read Alaska. If you want to help to keep the lights on here, just go to mustreadalaska.com. There's a little donate button on the right-hand side. If you want to sponsor the Must Read Alaska show, just email me, johnjohn at mustreadalaska.com. And I'd love to have you sponsor the show. Hans, thank you so much for joining us.
Again,
Always
man.
a treat. And until next time, I'm John Quick from somewhere in Alaska. Thanks.